Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. I have 3 Phalaenopsis orchids, 1 regular and 2 minis. I want to combine them in one pot and I think I found the perfect pot for that, so let's check it out. So before I get yakking about the pot, I want to show you guys the flowers on these orchids. All 3 orchids were purchased from a Safeway just outside the meat department. The older lady that works there looks after all the plants in that department. She was actually extremely knowledgeable with orchids. So we had a nice little chat for a while. So the pot that I'm talking about is this pot right here. This is a Wally Grow pot. Some of the key features that I really like about this pot is it has holes in the front. Now it only goes halfway down. So these are all open to air. These ones are closed. I have in the past just drilled out a few of these lower holes. Now this is perfect for orchids because orchids need airflow to their roots. I'll show you the other pot here in a couple minutes, but the orchids absolutely love that pot, and it's nice that you can combine many plants into one pot. So that's why I like this pot specifically. After I repot these, I'll show you how I water them, but for other types of plants, you can water from this little back part right here. This is a watering reservoir, so it has those holes as well. So you can add water into this area and it spills into the area right here where your soil is. So yeah, I'm going to be punching a couple more holes in the front right here, and then I'll be taking these orchids out of their current pots and combining them into this one right here. This one up here is my other Wally Grow, which I have 3 regular Phalaenopsis orchids, and look how beautiful these flowers are. It is underneath a Soltech grow light, and you can see all of these roots are just popping out of the pot. Like, they absolutely love the airflow. I'm gonna try and get in here, look at the chunky mix, and just look at all the roots just exploding. I'm gonna see if I can, oh, there's even one popping out of one of the holes. So look at that little guy. So I'm just gonna take this off, and you can see this is the mounting bracket that it fits onto. It just slides on like that. I'm gonna put my camera down so I don't drop this pot. So yeah, these ones are doing really, really good. And like I said, these roots are just going absolutely crazy. And then tucked in between the 2 branches of my fiddly fig is the bracket for the other Wally Grow. So this is where it's gonna go after I do the repotting. But this is the area that I have it in. And I just have these little Sancy gooseneck grow lights providing the light to the area. I've actually had these orchids now for probably a little over a month. Now there's a couple reasons why I didn't repot them into the Wally Grow right away. The first one being is you can run the risk of losing flowers if the plant gets stressed. So repotting is typically fairly stressful on a plant, especially if there's root damage. So you run the risk of losing flowers. Now the second reason is, as I was expecting a package in the mail. I purchased a bunch of new soil from VeryPlants. This is their succulent mix, and at the bottom here is their orchid mix. So I needed some new fresh soil. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take these little orchids out of their pots. This one is in sphagnum moss, and the roots look really, really good. Now the lady that was working at Safeway, like I said, she was an orchid expert. So she knew exactly how to care for these, not to overwater them, and actually took pride in just caring for these orchids. So I'm gonna squeeze this and pull it out of the pot. And like I said, I gotta be really, really careful not to damage the roots because I don't wanna lose these absolutely gorgeous flowers. Now normally I use a pencil to pick away at soil, but for this sphagnum moss, I'm just gonna try and pull away as much as I can. And then I'm gonna use this little bamboo piece of wood, and I'm just going to pick away at some of the moss just to help loosen it up a little bit. So far, only 1 root snapped off. Now there is a little bit of rot. So on this one right here, you can see the end of it, she's gone. This part that I just snapped off, that was still viable. It is a nice healthy root, but I broke it accidentally. So that's why repotting can be pretty stressful on plants. So now where it gets tricky is when you're trying to remove moss from up near the main portion of where the roots connect to the plant, or like this right here. So as you're trying to move or remove moss, you have roots that are like this. Now if I even pull down slightly, it's gonna snap it off right there. So that's why I'm being really, really delicate and just kind of picking away at the moss with this bamboo skewer thing. Again, I'm not in any rush. I just want to remove the moss. And just to get into these very tight areas, I'm actually going to use my little bonsai scissors and then just remove the moss. Now, in one of my previous orchid videos, I said moss is not a really good substrate for orchids. Now, I know a lot of people grow orchids in moss, and I get that. It's something that I don't like to grow plants in long term. It just, the moss, it stays wet for too long, and then it goes in these really, like if you miss watering, then it gets really, really dry, and sometimes it gets a little bit hydrophobic. So my preference is not to grow things in moss, like entirely, but I know there are people out there, so please don't get offended because I don't. I'm just gonna cut this little bit of rot off at the bottom here like that. So that's probably as good as I'm gonna get it. I'm actually gonna cut this right here because it looks like it's already kind of lost that little point, like it's black, so I'm just going to cut that off. So I think overall this is a good starting point. I'm just going to set this aside. Oop, we missed one. Got one little rotten root back there. So they were the majority were on the interior of the plant. So yeah, I'll set this one aside. Actually, I'm just going to put it right there. I'm going to lean it on this little pot so I don't wreck the flowers. Now this next one, the one with the white flowers, I just gave it some water just because I noticed it was a little bit dry. This one just has like a little sliver of moss on the side, which I'm gonna, again, try and remove as best as I can. But it has one of these like soil plug things, so I'm just going to pick away or peel away at this. Usually they're fairly easy to remove. One type of plant that is extremely annoying to remove moss from are Hoyas. The roots of Hoyas actually look like these small fibers from the sphagnum moss. So a lot of times you think you're just pulling away at the moss, but you're actually destroying the root system of the Hoya. It was absolutely terrible. I hated removing moss from Hoyas, but when you have a plant with these nice big chunky roots, it makes it much easier, that's for sure. Just a little bit of rot on some of these. Actually, not too bad. Now, a cool thing about orchids and their roots, if they're green like this, then they have the ability to photosynthesize, which is pretty cool. So they help with producing energy for new growth. Now for the larger one, it does have 2 flower spikes, so double flower spikes, still getting some little buds there. I just took it out of the pot. I removed just a couple like little dying dried out roots on top here, but look at the rest. Like, when was the last time you saw a grocery store orchid that had roots like this? So it's actually in a nice chunky mixture already, so I'm not going to remove anything from the roots, or around the roots I should say. I'm simply going to take it out of the pot and put it in this one. Now, in case you happen to live in Regina, Saskatchewan and you want to know which Safeway it is, it's the one on 13th Avenue in the Cathedral. So they had a ton of the mini Phalaenopsis as well as the regular ones. Now I'm going to take a couple scoops of the orchid mix. Like, look how chunky that is. I'm just going to put it in the bottom of the pot there. It's going to fill just kind of the bottom base layer there. So maybe something like that, maybe a little bit more. And then I'll size up the large Phalaenopsis here first. Now, just looking at the pot right here, I want to keep it at relatively the same height or same depth as the previous one. And you have to account for the water reservoir ledge. So something like that is where I want this one to be. So I'm simply just going to squeeze this lightly and see if I can coax it out of the pot here. Sometimes these roots get a little stuck to the side of the pot. So something like that. And I think I'm going to actually plant it sideways like this. That way I can place the 2 smaller orchids on either side of this one. And I'm going to add soil on both sides of this one here before I add in the small ones, just because they don't have as large of a root system as this one. So I'm just going to move that up just a bit, push it to the back, make sure it stays upright. Now for placing these smaller ones, the leaves just placed on the edge of the pot actually keeps it kind of like suspended above the soil. So now that makes it really easy for me to add soil in kind of in and around the roots on either side. And that's all I'm going to do. Let's just get a cup of soil. I'm going to hold this just so it doesn't drop any further, and try not to get any of the orchid mix in the reservoirs because it's kind of a pain to get out. You pretty much have to get a vacuum in there to suck it all out. So I'm just going to use my pencil to poke down soil around the roots. Get that off the leaf, something like that. And let's see if this one suspends in the air as well. Kind of does. I'm just going to hold it up, and then I'm just going to add in the soil, just like the other side. So just dump it in, move it around as needed. There's a little bit of roots right down in there that are exposed, so I just want to cover it up. It looks like there needs to be a little bit more at the front as well. So I'm just going to dump it in like that and then push it down in the front. When my orchids need water, I bring them over to the shower, and I pretty much just try and water the soil. So you typically don't want to get water in the crown, like on the top of the plant there, because you run the risk of it rotting from the middle. But I'm just going to rinse off the leaves a little bit, and I'll show you how I correct the water on the leaves. So this is pretty much how I water. Like, I just water the soil. I go around kind of underneath the plant and just along the sides. I try to avoid spraying off the leaves, but there was quite a bit of plant or soil dust that I wanted to clean off. And then afterwards, I don't want any standing water, because there is water in the reservoir down there. What I do is I pull the pot forward and I let all the water flow out of the front of the pot. I'm not going to tip it forward too much because, again, I don't want the plants to fall out, but this is how I water my orchids. I know you've probably seen other videos of people putting ice cubes in their soil for orchids. Don't do that. Give them a good thorough watering and then let them dry out. When those big chunky roots, like those big green thick noodles down there, if they get a little bit silvery and the soil is dry, then it's time for water. When a plant indoors has water on their leaves, it runs the risk of rotting or like introducing like a fungal infection, because there isn't like a ton of airflow like there would be outside. So all you have to do is get yourself a paper towel, a tissue, something like that, and just dab kind of the inside of the leaf there, the crown, and just clean off the leaves like that, and then you'll have no rotting issues. So just go around the plant and kind of soak up that water. Another solution to airflow is getting yourself like an indoor oscillating fan or something like that. So there, it just helps evaporate all of the water droplets off of the leaves. And here's the finished product. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to take it upstairs here in a few minutes, hang it up on the bracket on the wall, and let it recover. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Otherwise, I appreciate all the support. Thanks for watching my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.